Hello everyone, my name is Caitlin and welcome back to my channel. So, Merry Christmas. That was so awkward, I am so sorry. But it is the holiday season and for the past few years people have asked me to rank all of the Disney Channel holiday episodes. And I'm gonna be honest, I actually attempted making this video last year, but then I got about halfway through watching all of these holiday episodes and just felt absolutely miserable, and so I gave up. Because for those of you who might not know, there's gotta be at least over 60 Disney Channel holiday episodes, like not even including the ones that aren't on Disney+. So I'm actually happy that I started making this video last year because it made things a lot easier this year. I could just skip over the ones that I knew right off the bat that I did not like. So instead of doing a video where I rank them all because I don't think I'm capable of doing that, I just decided to put together a list of my top 15 for you guys. So in case you're wondering which episodes were my favorites and you wanted to do a little holiday binge, now you can. One little disclaimer before we get started though is that I have rearranged this list more times than I can count, and so while yes, it is going to be presented to you guys in the form of a ranking, I feel like you should take this list more as just like a collective of my favorites. It's more of like a collection of my top 15 holiday episodes. Alright, so with all that being said, let's just jump right into it.
Oh dear, I think we blinded him.
So first up we have the Kim Possible Christmas episode. So in this episode, Kim gets Ron a super sentimental gift, and then this makes him start to feel sort of guilty because all he got for her was Bueno Nacho Bueno books, which was the same thing he got for her the year before. And so in the attempt to do something more for her for Christmas, he ends up trying to go and stop Draken on his own, but then this ends up leaving him stranded in the North Pole. And so this results in Kim and her family taking a trip around the world to find him. And I'm gonna be honest, when I originally did this video, I feel like I had this one ranked a lot higher, but then now going back and rewatching it after it already being somewhat fresh in my mind, it just didn't really hit as hard this time around. But I did still really like it. I like how we got to see more of Ron and Draken's dynamic because they are just such a great duo, and I also just love how quickly they're able to get around the world in this show. And the ending was great. They have a cute little holiday party all together, and we even got a mistletoe moment between Kim and Ron. And I also just must say, there is nothing more nostalgic for me than just watching the Kim Possible end credits. It just makes me feel something that I simply can't explain, and so that is the Kim Possible Christmas episode.
It's an honor to lose her to you, Mackenzie.
Alright, next up we have the Sonny with a Chance So Random holiday special. So for those of you who might not know, for their holiday episodes, Sonny with a Chance would do full-length episodes as their show from within the show, So Random. And so for this episode, we had Chad hosting, Joe Jonas guest starring, and so many fun holiday sketches. I think I have two favorite sketches from this episode, the first being the one where Chad is speaking to the audience and he just keeps getting Mackenzie-related questions to the point where Mackenzie ends up coming out. It's kind of hard to explain, you'd have to see it, but it's very good, 10 out of 10. And then the second is probably one of the most iconic sketches from the show, if you ask me. Like, I feel like this one has just stuck with me throughout all these years, and it's where Zora's character gets Joe Jonas gifted to her for Christmas. But then we've also got a sketch from the Real Princesses of New Jersey, and then to my dismay, a Sicky Vicky sketch as well. Which as a kid, I feel like I love the Sicky Vicky sketches, but in this episode, they're just doing a rendition of the 12 Days of Christmas, and I could barely make it through the first time they did it, and then they just kept doing it over and over again, and I was like, I can't do this. I had to skip over it because I just found it too annoying to bear, unfortunately. And then of course, to complete the episode, we have Demi and Joe singing a rendition of My Song for You, which was just so iconic, and I wish we had their version on Spotify. And I was gonna say, the only question I had after watching this episode was how on earth did they convince Chad to host an episode of So Random? But then I remembered that him and Sonny were dating around this time if we're following the show's timeline, and so that made it make a lot more sense. And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, he joined the show after Sonny left because he was in the spinoff So Random, but I do not accept that as canon because let's be honest, Chad Dylan Cooper would never. And so yeah, that is the Sonny with a Chance So Random holiday special. It is number 14.
It's okay, Beast! He knows it's part of the game! Okay. Do it!
Next we've got the Stuck in the Middle, Stuck at Christmas holiday special, movie, whatever you want to call it. So in this episode we follow the Diaz family as they head on a trip to Florida to visit their abuela for Christmas. However, along the way they just keep getting hit by roadblocks that make it feel like getting to her house in time for Christmas is just going to be an impossible task. And first of all, I feel like if you haven't watched Stuck in the Middle yet, I just highly recommend that you do so. I binged the series during quarantine and I really enjoyed myself, which was surprising because there wasn't really many ships to keep me going, but I feel like that just goes to show how good of a series it was. And so to revisit this show by watching the Christmas special was just so much fun for me. It's just like a classic will they get there in time Christmas movie, but with a Diaz family twist, and I just love this family so much that I'll watch them do practically anything. And this show really was just so good at being realistic. Like the whole thing with it being the first year that their abuela didn't try to guilt trip them into coming, and so that's what actually made them want to come. And let's just say, being a part of a blended family, I just could very much so relate to that situation. Also the whole ending with the plotline with the guy who was the brother of Gustavo from Big Time Rush, and then the Diaz's making it in time for Christmas, it just made me teary-eyed, and I feel like when a Christmas special can actually make me cry, like that's when you know it's a good time. And so that's Stuck in the Middle, and that's why it's on this list.
I guess everybody gets nervous in different ways. You know, some people chew their fingernails and other people turn into a demon spawn.
Next up, we have my personal favorite Liv and Maddie holiday episode. They actually did a couple, so there's like the New Year's Eve one, there's the one where Joey and Parker are on that episode of Jessie, and then there's the one in season 4, but then we have this one, which is my favorite. Is it mainly because this one has no Diggy in it? I mean, maybe. Who's to say? I really tried to watch the other 2 holiday episodes because I remember liking them when I was watching the show, but the moment Diggy was mentioned, I just couldn't. That boy just makes me cringe and I can't handle it anymore. And so let's talk about this episode instead because I loved it. This one follows 3 storylines. You got Maddie and her dad lighting the tree for Stevens Point, Liv preparing to perform in the Christmas show, and Parker trying to get back at Joey for ruining his Christmas present that he asked for. And usually I don't like that many storylines. I'd rather just have like 2 at most and then have them be more fleshed out. But I feel like it worked really well here just to keep the episode so fast-paced and entertaining. There's also a very important Christmas lesson with Parker in this episode, and that you should not buy something for yourself around Christmas time, especially when it is something that everybody knows that you wanted. Just speaking from experience here, just don't do it. All around, I love Liv and Maddie. I love this episode. I just thought the holiday vibes were on point, and I already want to watch it again even though I just watched it yesterday.
He's cute, he's cool, he's talented.
Okay, next is the Lizzie McGuire Aaron Carter episode, which actually technically isn't the show's holiday episode, but I feel like it's the better one out of the 2, and so we're going with it. So in this episode, Lizzie finds out that Aaron Carter is shooting his holiday music video nearby, and so the gang goes there and tries to meet him, unaware of the fact that Lizzie's dad already had backstage passes for them. And so obviously shenanigans ensue from there, and it's just such a fun episode. I actually didn't know who Aaron Carter was for the longest time until my friend Jackie brought him up to me a few years back, and she had to explain who he was because I had no idea. So I'm happy that I had that knowledge going into this episode, or else I would have been like, who on earth is this kid? And so for those of you who might have been unaware like myself, Aaron Carter is the younger brother of Nick Carter, who is from the Backstreet Boys. And so that was this episode. I really liked the kiss. It kind of came out of nowhere and caught me by surprise, but that just made me like it even more. Like, it was so awkward and just hilarious that it was just perfection. I'm also not too sure if the song choice was the best. Like, I get it, like I want candy, Christmas time, whatever, but he's singing about he's wanting a girl named Candy, not like actual candy. And I just feel like they could have picked a better Christmas song for a Christmas music video, you know? But all in all, liked this episode, great job, would watch again.
Okay, who's ready for egret?
Next up, we have our first Girl Meets World episode of the list because I decided to include both of them because I love them both so much. And so this one is Girl Meets a Christmas Maya. And I guess there's actually technically 3 because there's also the New Year's episode, but I don't really like that one that much. And so we're not gonna talk about it. We're talking about the Christmas ones. So we've got 2 main plots going on in this episode. The first being the gang's annual Secret Santa, which apparently everybody hates except for Riley. And then the second being Maya not wanting to go home for Christmas because she doesn't want Sean seeing how crazy her and her mom get around the holidays. And I know people have been making a lot of jokes recently just about how cringy this show is now if you go back and rewatch it, but I honestly do not care. And I love this episode in particular because the kids are a bit older, and so just seeing them all take the time to get one another such thoughtful gifts just makes my heart so very happy. I was also reminded as to why people ship Zay and Smackle after watching this episode because they share a little moment together in this one, and I can't get over it. I'm still thinking about it. And what can I say? This episode was just an all-around great time. I also love how Lucas wasn't even in it. Like, he just dips and didn't even tell Riley that he was leaving, even though I'm pretty sure they were dating at this point in the series. I think my only 2 complaints would be that Sean was mentioned numerous times in this episode but was nowhere to be found. And then also this whole thing with like Maya and her mom being crazy around the holidays wasn't really mentioned in the last Christmas episode, although like there was a lot going on in that one, so I can understand why, but still, I feel like it should have been brought up a little bit. But yeah, that's Girl Meets World. I love Girl Meets World and I love Christmas, and so I love this episode. What can I say?
Mom and I watched him sail away until a police boat quickly arrested him.
Coming in at number 9, we have Raven's Home, which is the holiday episode from season 4. So in this 2-part episode, all of the kids and parents are separated from one another on Christmas. So the kids are at home, the moms are at Raven's office, and then the dads are at a cabin that they booked for the holidays. But then a snowstorm comes because of course, and it leaves everybody stranded where they are. And so I actually stopped keeping up with Raven's Home around season 2, and so it's been a couple years since I went and watched an episode, and then this one just reminded me why I love the show so much. It does a really good job of giving us some great plot lines with these new lovable characters while still giving Raven and Chelsea the spotlight that they deserve as well. If you're a fan of That's So Raven, I would highly recommend watching this episode even if you've never watched an episode of Raven's Home, because this one was honestly one of the best episodes I've seen. I love how they kept with the plotline of Booker and his Christmas cray from the last Raven's Home holiday episode, and how they incorporated COVID into the show with the masks, and every time they said moms or dads, it just made me feel for the kids watching at home that might also have 2 moms or 2 dads, and it made me smile. It was also just such a genuinely funny and entertaining episode that I had no doubt in my mind that it was going to make it on this list.
What you doing?
Welding.
Good, good.
Alright, so next we've got my favorite Good Luck Charlie Christmas episode. Now there's a few plot lines going on in this one as well, but the main ones are that everyone is preparing for the Christmas family talent show that they've got coming up, and that Teddy is sent to Adventureland jail once again after she causes a scene with Santa, we'll just put it that way. And this episode's got a lot going for it. It's got the nostalgia value for me, the holiday theming is on point, we've got another rendition of My Song for You, and then of course a hilarious improv done by PJ and Gabe. This is probably one of the most popular Disney Channel Christmas episodes, and I feel like it lives up to its name in my own personal opinion. I feel like it's a really good one. Also, yes, Spencer is there, but I can kind of put my distaste for him aside and still enjoy this episode, especially because he doesn't really do much in it. And so yeah, that is Good Luck Charlie, A Duncan Christmas.
What? Not the front desk! So big and wooden!
Okay, so at number 7 we have the Sweet Life Christmas episode. Most of you probably remember this one as being the one where the lady gives birth in the elevator, but the main plot of this episode didn't really have anything to do with that. Basically, the boys were planning on going on a trip with their dad for the holidays, and their mom was planning on going to a resort on her own, but then a big snowstorm leaves everybody stranded at the Tipton. So Carrie and Kurt agree to play it nice for their kids now that he is stranded there, but then this ends up making Cody believe that they're going to be getting back together. And then meanwhile, the hotel is fully booked because Boston's very busy, you know, it's Christmas time and people are stranded because of this snowstorm, and so the lobby is very packed. So Mosby goes to bring this pregnant woman and her husband, now I kind of wish it was a wife. I don't even know if they were married. It was a pregnant lady and a man. He goes to bring them to another lounge, but then she ends up getting stranded in the elevator with Zack and Cody while she goes into labor. And then this episode goes on to compare this birth to the birth of Jesus, as their names were Mary and Joseph, and there was no room for them at the inn, and it's Christmas time, and so it's like, oh my gosh, it's like Jesus. And so that was fun. Overall, I feel like this episode is a classic, and it definitely does still hold up. I just wish they didn't do the whole, like, parents getting back together thing, because as a child of divorce, I'm just so sick of that plotline. Like, not all divorced kids want their parents back together. Like, most of us, I feel like, know that would just be a disaster. But I guess in the grand scheme of things, like, I didn't even remember that plot when I went back to rewatch it. Like, I was more excited for the one with Maddie in London and the gift exchange and Arwen finding things to feed the furnace to keep the hotel running. And so yeah, I just feel like it goes to show which plotlines were more memorable in the grand scheme of things, although that one with Zack and Cody and their parents was like the main plotline of the episode. But either way, it's still a great one and a classic, and I'm really happy I rewatched it because I remember loving it as a kid.
They'd be 100 times better. Thank you, booby!
Next up, we've got the Even Stevens Hanukkah episode. So in this episode, Louis finds all of his Hanukkah presents and opens them up, and then accidentally lets them fall out of his bedroom window to their doom. And so this leads him into an It's a Wonderful Life sequence where he meets a version of his family without him in it and gets to see the positive effect he has on everyone in his family. And there's a couple things that I love about this episode. I love that it's not Christmas and we're getting some Jewish representation instead. This episode is also just simply hilarious. Like, I laughed out loud numerous times while watching it. And I also just love this family's dynamic. They have such great chemistry with one another, and it just makes me want to sit down and binge watch the whole show. My only complaint is that I feel like he doesn't really see any sort of repercussions for opening and breaking all of not only his gifts but his siblings as well. Like, sure, he learns the value that he has in the family, but do I think he would go and look for his gifts and open them again next year? Like, 100%. But overall, great episode, 10 out of 10. I really need to watch the show because I haven't since I was a child. And so yeah, that's Even Stevens.
Hey guys, I just realized something.
That it's way too long past Labor Day to be wearing that white top?
At number 5, we have the Austin and Ally Christmas episode from season 3. Now, Austin and Ally also had a couple Christmas themed or holiday themed episodes, but this one is just my own personal favorite. We've got a couple plot lines going on in this episode as well, but the main one is that they're hosting this like charity event for kids in need, and they all want Austin Moon dolls, but then the company making these dolls messed them up and made them all with really long hair, and so they have to fix them all in time for Christmas. And I just feel like this episode is a classic. Like, how could you forget the peeing Austin Moon doll? Like, that stuff just sticks with you. There was also just so many great Austin and Ally moments in this episode with the mistletoe. It was just 10 out of 10. I mean, I wish that they did actually kiss, but sometimes an almost kiss is just as good. And then to wrap up the episode, we got a lovely performance of I Love Christmas from Austin and Ally, and then also a wonderful Christmas miracle with Santa himself. And so honestly, what's not to love? And so yeah, I really like this episode. Like, I know a lot of people like the Jesse and Austin one, but I prefer this one. And so yeah, that's why it's number 5.
They've got to be kidding! It is like totally beneath my dignity to play glazed ham.
Alright, number 4 is the Recess Christmas episode, and I feel like I hardly ever get the chance to talk about Recess on this channel, and so I was really excited to rewatch this episode. So to set the scene, Mikey is the only one in their friend group that still believes in Santa. And so when Randall, spoiling everybody's fun as he does, tells Mikey that he doesn't exist, this then leads Mikey to go on a mission to prove to his friends that he does. Oh, then also during all of this, Mikey is cast as Santa in their holiday show because he's got just such a gorgeous voice. And there was just something about this episode that I just found so comforting. Like, it just reminded me why I loved this show so much. I think after I watched this episode, I immediately texted Jackie just to tell her about how good it was, because I just needed somebody to know, like I just needed to talk about it. I don't even think it is included in like the Disney Plus holiday episodes list, and that just makes me sad because it's so good and it deserves to be. Mikey is just such a lovable character that you never want to see him sad, and then his encounter with Santa at the end was just so sweet, and so this episode is just 100% without a doubt one of my favorite holiday episodes.
Eddie, transportation report. We walk into the mall.
Coming in at number 3, we have the That's So Raven Christmas episode. In this episode, Raven opens one of her presents early, which is a necklace, and so she wears it to school, and then it ends up getting ruined, and so she has to go and replace it without her parents knowing. And after watching a couple episodes about kids opening their presents early, like from Even Stevens or Coop and Cammy, which also was a good episode, it just didn't end up making this list, I have to say that That's So Raven handled this topic just the best, hands down. Something that I feel like the other episodes failed to demonstrate was that the only person you're hurting by opening your gifts early is yourself. Like, you're ruining your own Christmas, why would you want to do that? Whereas I feel like the other episodes kind of forgot to get to that lesson, and That's So Raven just did it so well. Like, the part of this episode where Raven is talking to Santa and going through all of the holiday traditions that she missed out on, just, it hits so hard, it was done so well, mainly because Raven-Symoné is just such a great actor, but also because, like, the moment you could really feel just how devastated she was. It actually made me tear up because you could really see how all of those little things that she said no to throughout the episode really affected her. And so that's the main reason why this episode is just one of my all-time faves, but it's also just because I love That's So Raven so much. It's such a great show, and Raven-Symoné just carries it so well. And so yeah, that's the That's So Raven Christmas episode at number 3.
Got that Christmas feeling, tricked Jeremy into writing a letter to Santa. Yeah, it's that old Christmas feeling, singing what I'm doing. Yeah.
At number 2, we have the Phineas and Ferb Christmas Vacation Special. Now, Phineas and Ferb also had its fair share of holiday episodes, but this one is just without a doubt the best one in my own personal opinion. And so in this episode, Phineas is feeling a little down because he feels like Santa doesn't get appreciated enough and he deserves more love, and so him and Ferb decide to build this big Santa pit stop for him. But then Doofenshmirtz is at it again, and he makes this naughty-a-nator that marks all of Danville as being naughty, and so everyone worries that Santa is just not going to come to Danville this year, and so it's up to Phineas and Ferb and his friends to save Christmas. And then of course you've also got your side plot with Candace stressing over what gift to get Jeremy for Christmas. And there's a couple reasons why I love this episode so much. It's a two-parter, so that means there's more time to tell the story. And of course it's Phineas and Ferb, so it is a musical as well. My personal favorite song from this episode is What Does He Want, sung by the wonderful Candace Flynn. And it's honestly just like your perfect heartfelt Christmas special, and I love it so much, and I kind of already want to watch it again, so I might do that. But yeah, that's number 2, so let's move on to my number 1.
How great is this? My favorite person in the world. And my wife.
Alright, so some of you might think that this one is kind of an odd choice for me to have it as my number 1, but seeing as I can't include Boy Meets World because that's technically an ABC family show, that just means that Girl Meets World takes the cake. In this episode, Sean is coming into town for Christmas, and so because of this, we learn that Riley feels that Sean doesn't like her, and so that is just something that Maya just will not stand for. And so this results in lots of conversations, lots of emotions, and lots of crying on my part. I don't know how I forgot that there were so many cameos in this episode, but I did. The moment that Corey's parents showed up, I just started crying, and then Sean was just too much for me. I don't even want to talk about it. And then you have that scene where Sean is just like explaining how much he loves Riley, that it physically hurts him to look at her, and I couldn't handle it. I was a complete mess. And I don't want to talk about Josh because, like, yes, he is in this episode, and yes, that man bugs me and makes me feel uncomfortable, but like, not even he can ruin this episode because it was just too darn good. My only thing is that I feel like Eric should have been there, but then also like his first appearance in the show was just so good that like I'm okay with it. And so that is my number 1 Disney Channel holiday episode, hands down. But don't check out just yet because this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative people on topics like illustration, design, photography, and so much more. Yesterday I took a class called Find Your Style, taught by this guy Andy J. Pizza, which first of all, sick name, and also just a sick class as well, I must say. When I first clicked on it, I was like, oh wait, this is for like illustrators or artists, like that's not really something that I do. But it actually wasn't. It was a super useful class for any sort of creative medium. And as someone who creates content that I want to represent myself, I just found this class to be super helpful. It was also like really entertaining and upbeat, and so that was also a plus. But what's also great about Skillshare is that it's curated specifically for learning. So this means that there's no ads, they're always launching new premium classes, and so this allows you to stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. Also, I know I have quite a few Spanish viewers who watch this channel to help learn English, and I feel like it's important to note that all Skillshare's classes now offer subtitles in Spanish, as well as subtitles in French, Portuguese, and Dutch. So if you want to give Skillshare a try, you can click that link in the description down below. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click that link will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare, so you can go and get started on exploring your creativity today. And so I just want to say thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you guys for checking it out, as like I've said numerous times before, it does really help out the channel a lot. Alright, so with all that being said, that is the end of this video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful holiday season, and I guess I'll see you in the new year. Actually, that's a lie, because I definitely have videos planned for next week and the week after, so I'll see you next week. Bye guys, thanks for watching. Oh, I forgot to do my outro. Anyways, Skater Tots, that is all to say for today. Hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.